Jordan was awesome as a rookie.
Right. So you think it's a debate about if Michael Jordan and his 35-win Bulls team was better than that he was better at 22.
Who was the better
than
individual
LeBron
player?
the year they went to the finals.
LeBron had a better team.
Look, really? I'm not even sure about that being the case.
All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched, NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. You saw in the intro, Mr. Nick Wright using age as some kind of a measure. And I'll let you hear another clip of his where the guy is an idiot and Chris Broussard actually does push back a little bit on it. But what this video entails basically is Nick Wright discounting anything any player did before they went into the NBA. If they didn't do it in the NBA, oh, well, you can't use it as a GOAT measurement or whatever. And if you're just talking about NBA alone, that's fine. You can't use LeBron's entire career and say that, well, since Kareem, Magic, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, these players went to college, so LeBron automatically had a 4-year head start on them for an NBA career. You can't do it like that. These guys were great in college. Anybody who's at least 40 years old, you know what I'm talking about. The 1980s, or even before in the 70s, NCAA was awesome. There was about 1/3 of the best players in the world were in college. They just were. They were younger, but they were amazing. I can't find any definitive stats, but a lot of people know about the 1984 Olympic team beating the NBA All-Stars in 8 straight exhibition games. But the NBA had Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, they had Mark Aguirre, then they had the best front court in the history of the NBA. The defending champion Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale were on that team, and Team USA. Not one player had played one game in the NBA yet, and they smashed them in 8 games. You discount what Michael Jordan did before he went to the NBA at your peril. But I believe if you're going to have some kind of a GOAT of basketball argument, sure, Kareem has way more of a case than LeBron James does. But back in that time, in the early 80s, the Big Ten, they just had Magic Johnson. They won the championship in 1980. In 81, it was Indiana with Isaiah Thomas. So the Big Ten was crushing it. They were probably the premier conference. The Midwest just had a lot of great players. You had Larry Bird went to Indiana State, not a Big Ten school, but in Big Ten country. But then it kind of shifted towards the mid-'80s. It was more about the East Coast, the Big East, and the ACC in particular. These two conferences were crazy good. Georgetown won the championship in 84, Villanova in 85. In 83, it was NC State. Here's some of the players that Michael Jordan was playing against. Now, some of these guys didn't really pan out in the pros, but they were very good college players. And you have to understand it's within the confines of college basketball. There was no shot clock when Michael Jordan went to college. So, of course, the stats are going to be lesser than what they are now. Players in college now, they play like they're in the NBA, basically. Jack up a bunch of threes, no defense, very similar. Here's the players that were in the ACC. Like I said, if you're over 40, definitely if you're over 45, you're going to know these names. Ralph Sampson, right away. Michael Jordan played against him Jordan's freshman and sophomore year in 82 and 83. Ralph Sampson played 9 years in the NBA. He's a Hall of Fame player. He was the 3-time National Player of the Year. This dude was legit. People looked at Ralph Sampson back then the way they look at Victor Wembanyama now. That's basically what they thought of Ralph Sampson. He dominated college, at least individually. He did not win a national championship. He did get to a Final Four. On his team, Othell Wilson, a very good college player. He only played 2 years in the pros, didn't pan out, but Jordan played against him for 3 years. Also, Ken Edlin, he played against him for 3 years also. He didn't pan out in the pros. Danny Young, some of you guys may have heard of him, from Wake Forest. He played 10 years in the NBA. Jim Johnstone, Guy Morgan, Delaney Rudd. He was definitely a star in college. All those guys were on Wake Forest during Michael Jordan's tenure. NC State, the team that upset Virginia. They upset North Carolina. And then they upset Houston, who had Clyde Drexler and Akeem Olajuwon. They had Thurl Bailey, a 12-year career in the NBA. Sidney Lowe, a 4-year. Chuck Nevitt, actually the year before they won the championship, but he ended up having a 9-year NBA career. Cozell McQueen, Lorenzo Charles, they didn't pan out in the pros. Adrian Branch, an excellent college player for Maryland, along with Charles Pittman. You got Vince Taylor, Brooks Stepp, Rick Carlisle. Ever heard of him? Coached the Mavericks to a championship, almost won the championship last year. He played at Virginia. Jordan played against him for 2 years. He got drafted to the Boston Celtics, a 5-year career, nothing special. He was a journeyman. Ben Coleman, he had a 5-year NBA career. Len Bias, 2 years he played against Jordan. He was the number 1 pick and then died that night from a tragic cocaine overdose. Kenny Green, Yvonne Joseph. How about John Sally? Ever heard of him? 11-year pro. How about Mark Price? Multiple All-NBAs. 12-year career for him. Mark Alari from Duke, 5-year career. Dave Henderson, Johnny Dawkins. He was a pretty good pro. He played 9 years in the NBA. How about Horace Grant? Ever heard of him? Clemson, only 1 year against Jordan. He had a 17-year career. How about Spud Webb? Ever heard of him? Spud Webb had a 12-year NBA career. Olden Polynice, the guy that was traded for Scottie Pippen, he had a 15-year NBA career. Craig Neal, Martin Nestle, and how about Muggsy Bogues? Jordan only played against him for 1 year, but he had a 14-year NBA career. The ACC was loaded. If it wasn't the premier conference, then it was the Big East. Those were the 2 best conferences in college in 1982 to 84, the 3 years that Jordan was there. What was Michael Jordan doing in college? Now let's remember, first of all, it's a 40-minute game versus a 48-minute game in the pros. So if you're going to compare these stats against pro numbers, you're already off the mark. There was no shot clock. The scores were not going to be as high, and Michael Jordan had to play within Dean Smith's system. He couldn't just go out there and Air Jordan it. No. This is Michael Jordan's college numbers. His freshman year in 1982, he averaged 13.5 points per game, 31.7 minutes per game. He shot 53.4% from the field. So that's really good. And that's as a freshman. In my mind, this would translate to the pros as about 20 points a game. That's probably what he would have averaged if he would have went straight to the NBA. Probably 20 points a game. Jordan's sophomore year is where he made the giant leap. 1983, he averaged 20 points per game, 30.9 minutes per game. He shot a little bit better, 53.5% field goal percentage. He shot 44.7% from 3. Now, granted, that was only a 19-foot, 9-inch line, but still. And then in Jordan's junior year, his last year in college, he averaged 19.6 points per game on 29.5 minutes, shot 55.1% from the field. Obviously, this dude would have been amazing in the NBA, even had he gone right away. But he was better because of the development. That's what helped Jordan along, especially in the NBA in the 80s, where so many players were fundamentally sound. It was a little easier for LeBron to go to the pros, where fundamentals were a little lacking then. And now they're just a joke. Here's Nick Wright and his ridiculous take, and I'll come back to it. Here you go.
Right now, at 39 years old, he is not nearly as good as young LeBron, but he's way better than 39-year-old Jordan. By any metrics, if we sat down here and said, hey, who was better at 18? Who was better at 19? Who was better at 20? Who was better at 21? Who was better at 22?
Know, Kareem. I mean, if you want to just say
I'm so glad you said that.
We're talking about NBA GOAT, Nick. We're not talking about high school. We're not talking about college. Kareem and Jordan were in college.
I got it.
At 18 and 19.
Okay, so if they were in college and LeBron was in the NBA, the better NBA player at 18 was LeBron. And the better. Okay, so then Jordan's rookie.
We get nonsensical.
That's fine. No, we're not. Jordan's rookie year at 22. He's in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Agreed. And LeBron's in the finals. Who was better at 22?
At 22, I don't know.
So the point that I was trying to make is, and we know that at 36, 37, 38, 39, it's LeBron.
Jordan wasn't even playing at 36.
Which is why we know it was LeBron.
We're not talking about who was better at this age. We're talking about who was better during their NBA career.
So this dude is punishing players like Michael Jordan and Kareem because they didn't go to the pros at 18 years old. That's just not something people did back then. It was like taboo. You weren't going to get playing time. The only players that were going, even leaving early, was like Magic, Isaiah Thomas. Those kind of players left early. Now, Jordan did leave 1 year early, but it's pretty obvious that Jordan would have made all-star in the NBA his sophomore year, his junior year. His senior year, he was sixth for MVP and led the NBA in points, in total points. He had the second most first-place votes for MVP at 21, 22 years old. Nick Wright's in there talking about, 35-win Bulls. First of all, it was a 38-win Bulls team, and you obviously don't know anything about the scheduling back in the 80s. Not even going to waste my time on that. But I want to say Michael Jordan's conference was a little bit better. And I just did a video yesterday showing what a joke Michael Jordan's team was when he had 4 players in his first 5 full seasons that even had a positive box plus minus. Give me a break. Less than any other player you could think of. I guarantee it. In Michael Jordan's North Carolina days, here's what he accomplished. As a freshman, now granted, they had Sam Perkins, they had James Worthy, absolutely, no doubt. But still, they had a 32-2 record overall. They were 12-2 in the ACC. They won the ACC tournament. They won the national championship. Jordan hit the winning shot. We all know this. Jordan was the ACC Freshman of the Year. And there were some good freshmen that year, trust me. Jordan's sophomore year, Worthy's now gone. They were 28-8. Again, won the ACC with a 12-2 record. They lost in the semis of the ACC tournament. That was to NC State, the eventual national champion. And they got beat in the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. Jordan was first team All-American. In 1984, a 28-3 record. Again, won the ACC, undefeated, 14-0. They got beat in the semis of the ACC tournament. I believe that one was to Duke. They lost in the Sweet 16. They got upset, no doubt about it. But Jordan, again, made first-team All-American and was the AP Player of the Year. You tally it all up. Michael Jordan on North Carolina was 88-13. They were 38-4 in regular season ACC games. All 3 years, they won the ACC. They won the ACC tournament once and won the national championship once. 2-time All-American and 1-time National Player of the Year. That is a great resume. Now, how did Michael Jordan do when he was on the Olympic team? I already talked about the amateurs beating the pros in 8 straight games. That's insane. Maybe they get 1 or 2 games, but all 8? You're talking about Larry Bird, Magic Johnson in the Olympics. All amateurs here. Although the other countries, they had some older players, adults, and they were good. Some of these guys you may have heard of, and some of them you haven't. Just because these players didn't play in the NBA, don't think they weren't great. So in the Olympics, Michael Jordan had an 8-0 record. He averaged 17.1 points per game on 54.5% shooting. He only played 21.5 minutes per game. Some of the players they went up against, Drazen Petrovic, you guys know him. He made All-NBA the year before he died, sadly. Have you guys ever heard of Drazen Dalipagic? Ever heard of him? He was a great international player. How about Fernando Martin? You ever heard of him? He was a great international player. Andrew Gaze, he went to Seton Hall. He was Australia's best player for years. How about Bill Wennington? He was on Canada. I know, a journeyman in the NBA, but still, he was on Team Canada. How about Oscar Schmidt? Probably the best player outside of Team USA. Oscar Schmidt is a legend from Brazil. Look up his international numbers. They'll shock you if you don't know this guy. Uwe Blab. Now, he played for Indiana with Bob Knight, actually. Was on that national championship team with Isaiah Thomas. And Detlef Schrempf, another All-NBA player you may have heard of, had a very long career. Now, were these guys as good as, say, the international players that have been out there, say, for the last 10, 15 years? No, I wouldn't think so. But these guys were still very good players. Excellent. And this isn't the NBA. You got to remember, this is international basketball. It's a little different. Once the Olympics were finished, somebody asked Coach Bob Knight, what did you think of Michael Jordan? Take a listen.
Absolutely. Great kid. If I were going to pick the 3 or 4 best athletes I've ever seen play basketball, he'd be one of them. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play basketball, bar none. If I were going to pick people with the best ability I'd ever seen play the game, he'd be one of them. If I were going to pick the best competitors that I'd ever seen play, he'd be one of them. So in the categories of competitiveness, ability, skill, and then athletic ability, he's the best athlete, he's one of the best competitors, he's one of the most skilled players. And that, to me, makes him the best basketball player that I've ever seen play.
I value Bob Knight's opinion a lot more than Nick Wright's, I'll tell you that. And then somebody asked Bob Knight, this was 33 years later, in 2017, he was asked, what do you think of LeBron James? And this was Bob Knight's response.
All right. As far as just the overall game of basketball, I know you're not a big NBA fan, but LeBron James, is he the best guy you've ever seen?
No. The best guy that ever played the game is Michael Jordan. Don't even think about anybody else.
Not even close?
Not even close.
Why is that?
Because he was just better than anybody. He was smarter, he was tougher, he won more. There are 2 things about when you talk about players. You talk about the best player and you talk about the most valuable player. Without any thought, the best player was Michael Jordan. The most valuable player was Bill Russell, because nobody in any sport won what Bill Russell did with the Celtics.
Bob Knight is one of the best basketball coaching minds there ever was. Maybe the best. So what he says is going to carry a lot of weight. The last undefeated season, he won a national championship in 1987 with guys you've never heard of. Ever heard of Daryl Thomas or Ricky Galloway, or maybe you've heard of Steve Alford, maybe you've heard of Keith Smart. They won a national championship. They beat a Syracuse team that was loaded with NBA pros, like Sherman Douglas, like Derek Coleman, like Ronnie Cycli. Indiana beat them in 81 with Isaiah Thomas, national championship. But like I've been saying for years, the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, Bob Knight said, don't even have to give it a thought. It's Jordan all day long. And the most valuable, Bill Russell. I think this whole go by age thing is a joke. And just because LeBron James played in the NBA, you don't automatically give it to LeBron. You talking about an NBA career only? Well, if you want to factor in what LeBron James did, then his whole career, he gets no pass for anything. I don't want to hear about age, because you made age a thing, Nick Wright. And college then was not like college now. Trust me, going to college now, yeah, a great player could just dominate the NCAA, no doubt about it. Back then, not really. You got to remember, when Michael Jordan was in college, you had Ralph Sampson, Patrick Ewing, Akeem Olajuwon was in college at the same time. In fact, Jordan had to play Ralph Sampson and Ewing his freshman year. In my opinion, what Michael Jordan did at North Carolina for those 3 years carried over to the Olympics of 1984, including 8-0 against the NBA stars and all that. Take that as a whole. National Player of the Year, ACC Freshman of the Year, 2-time All-American, National Championship. You take all that and you compare it against LeBron James's first 3 years in the NBA, where he missed the playoffs twice. He did win Rookie of the Year, but we all know Carmelo Anthony had that thing wrapped up, but he got screwed. And then LeBron in year 3 won 1 playoff series against the Wizards. I think what Michael Jordan did at North Carolina and with Team USA is more impressive than what LeBron James did. It's funny how Nick Wright nor Broussard mentioned what the Eastern Conference was like in 1985 when Jordan was a rookie versus 2007 when LeBron James was also 22 years old, trying to make this comparison about, oh, well, they got to the finals. They beat one team over 500. The only 50-win team in the conference other than Cleveland was Detroit. It was a bum, terrible conference. In 1985, Michael Jordan's division, you had Atlanta, you had Detroit, and you had Milwaukee. And you also had Philadelphia, and you had Boston. much stronger teams than what LeBron was facing, please. And you had to play these teams 5 and 6 times each, not 4 like they do now. And in some cases, 3. This whole thing is a joke. It's just Nick Wright sticking with his LeBron James can do no wrong. Whatever Michael Jordan did, it's really not that great. Don't believe your lying eyes. So sick of these people. You have no idea. I don't care if they're doing it for clicks and views, because I hear people coming in, just my comments, saying the same stuff. They believe it. They think it's gospel if Nick Wright says it, or even if something is factually true. Get the context of it. Somebody in the comments just the other day talking about, oh, well, Larry Bird did beat Michael Jordan twice. Again, let me get this through the thick-head fools who sometimes frequent this channel. In 1987, Boston won 59 games. The Bulls won 40. Had the Bulls beat Boston, that would have been the 3rd greatest upset in NBA history, okay? Had the Bulls in 86 beat Boston, that would have been the biggest upset in NBA history by 12-win margin. The biggest upset was 2007, Golden State beat Dallas. That was a 42-win team beating a 67-win team, a 25-win differential. The Bulls won 30 games in 1986. Boston won 67. That's a 37-win disparity. That would have been far and away the greatest upset in NBA history. So you people have warped minds talking about couldn't be Larry Bird. But what's funny is back before Jordan even played in the NBA, he beat Bird, McHale, Parrish with Isaiah and Magic just by giving him some players. Now, who did he have on his team? Yeah, he had Alvin Robertson, he had Chris Mullin, he had Patrick Ewing, just to name some of those guys. There was some nice players there. They had 0 NBA experience, however, and they mollywopped the NBA pros 8 straight games. So I don't want to hear about, oh, Jordan couldn't beat Bird when he's got journeymen on his team. Bums. So anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you wouldn't mind sharing it, that would be great. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I give daily content, and that's it. Until next time.